The Wall Street Journal like spackled this all over the front page of their website today with a massive, almost like photo shoot. It's almost like they hired like, what is her name? Ann Geddes to go like do photos of these.
It's very photojournalistic.
Yeah. So these are the guys here. Take a look at your screen. This is Ukraine fears defeat in East without surge in military aid. And it's all of these, photos of what's of how they're suffering right now. And European leaders, of course, are about to meet in Brussels. And they have a full laundry list of like the equipment that they want to be able to get shipped there right now. Like, take a look at the list. This is what this is the advisor to. Let me see if I have his name right. This is the advisor to Zelensky. So I'm going to put this up on the screen, Scott. And I want you to take. Being straightforward, this is what the advisor to Zelensky said. To end the war, we need heavy weapons parity, 1,000 howitzers, 300 MLRS, 500 tanks, 2,000 armored vehicles, 1,000 drones. That's what he's hoping to get from the meeting on June 15th, just a few days from now. Scott, what's your take on this? They need weapons. That's the only reason they're losing. I guess we haven't sent them enough.
Well, this is something I've been pointing out from day one. The Ukrainians started with one of the largest armies in Europe, one of the most well-equipped armies in Europe. And they're fighting another very large army, very well-equipped army. And now we come down to just the brutality of military math. And it's about death and destruction. You're killing people and you're destroying equipment. And the side that can do it more efficiently than the other will win. And Russia is very efficient in killing Ukrainians and destroying Ukrainian equipment. And there comes a point in time where, and the other thing about it is, as long as there's relative parity, you're grinding down and it's a slower process. But at some point in time, you're just going to start grinding it down quicker, and then it devolves rapidly. And that's what we're seeing right now. Is rapid devolution of Ukrainian capability.
I'm sorry. So we don't know anything about military strategy, but we do know about media spin on military strategy. So it seemed like around February, we were told Ukraine, they can do this. They're scrappy. They are going to rise up and push back Russia, and this will be an easy get. And now we're being told the exact opposite. In fact, this Wall Street Journal piece says that Ukrainian forces only have one artillery piece per 10 to 20 Russians on the front lines. That math does not work out for a win, right? That a win does not make. So what did it start a bit more with what you call parity, and then now it looks like the writing is on the wall? Or has that always been the way, and the Western media was always leading with what it wanted?
Well, the Western media has always led with what it wanted. First of all, it never started with parity. It actually started with a 3-to-1 advantage on the part of the Ukrainians.
Wow. Wow.
The Russians came in with say 200,000 troops, and Ukraine, had 600,000 available. Ukraine had numerical superiority, et cetera. What Russia brought to bear was strategic and operational competence. They were able to shape the battlefield very effectively. In the first phase of the operation, say the first month of the operation, pin down large numbers of Ukrainian forces, preventing them from reinforcing critical sectors, and then interdicting lines of communication, destroying ammunition dumps, destroying fuel depots, destroying lines of communication, interdicting command and control. And all of this leads to a degradation of combat effectiveness on the part of the Ukrainians. And meanwhile, the Russians are grinding it out on the battlefield. And so when they shifted to phase 2, they had already shaped the battlefield the way they wanted it. They had the Ukrainians disposed on the battlefield where they wanted them. And then they got into the dirty business of killing. I mean, I don't mean to be too blunt here, but that's what war is about. It's not glorious. It's not heroic. It's disgusting death and destruction of the worst kind. I mean, they showed that photograph of that steely-eyed, Ukrainian tape. Come on, tell the truth. Show his burned out corpse, thrown out of the tank, charred, blown into pieces, because that's what he's going to look like in a day or two. That's what hundreds of Ukrainians are looking like every day. It's not, this isn't Saving Private Ryan where a guy clutches his shoulder and goes down. This is bodies getting blown up. I mean, people need to know this. It isn't pretty. It's ugly. It's disgusting. It stinks. That's war, and the Russians are waging it more brutally effective than the Ukrainians can sustain it. And the inevitability of Ukraine's defeat has been on the page since day one when we saw the superiority of the Russian plan. The West didn't understand the Russian plan. They said, oh my God, they're trying to capture Kiev. Russia was never trying to capture Kiev. Russia came in with 40,000 troops and pinned down 60,000 troops. That's called using your brain. Russia never tried to take Odessa. They floated 10,000 troops off the coast, kept 40,000 troops pinned in place. They forced reserves instead of going to the east to the Donbass. Reserves got diverted to Kiev and to Odessa. And that's how Russia shaped this battlefield so that they could achieve this impressive victory with 1/3 the troops that Ukraine has. And it's been very impressive. And any military expert, not the idiots that get paid money by Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they all have 3-4 stars on their shoulder, but they stopped being military professionals the moment they took the check from the media corporations, because their job isn't to provide expert military advice. Their job is to echo a predisposed conclusion that the media has already reached. We are here to tell you about the great Ukrainian victory. Lieutenant General Mark Hurling, please tell us the great military victory.
Yes.
Ukraine's achieving a great military victory. None of it's true. None of it's true. And the first, if somebody like me comes up and says, whoa, time out. I wrote a 16-thread tweet that explained what was going on at the end of phase one. And that got like 3 million impacts or whatever the term is. I think that scared the heck out of Twitter because they went, well, we got to shut this thing down because somebody's putting out a narrative that is different than Hurling. Well, guess what, Hurling? Look at the shopping list that the Ukrainians just put out. It's proof positive that they're getting their butts kicked, because if you need 1,000 pieces of artillery, that means you lost 1,000 pieces of artillery. If you need 500 tanks, that means you've lost 500 tanks. That's just the hard, cold fact. And it's not just tanks and artillery. Every piece of equipment that's there, that's human life.
Yeah.
So for every tank going down, that's 3 to 4 lives. For every artillery piece, that's 5 to 6 lives. So if they've lost 1,000 artillery pieces, that's 5,000 to 6,000 guys dead. If they've lost 500 tanks, multiply that by 3, that's 1,500 dead. And then there's the infantry, there's the logistics, there are all the other dead people out there. Ukrainians are getting slaughtered. Probably right now they've admitted that it's around 200 dead a day.
Yes.
I'll tell you right now that number is closer to 600 to 800 dead a day. 600 to 800 guys dead.
You mentioned some of the talking heads on TV, and it's amazing because we worked in that world. I mean, I was in mainstream media for 20 years, Natalie as well, and we got out of the belly of that beast. But I want to play this soundbite because you might know this person, and I don't mean to throw this person under the bus, but this just speaks to exactly what you just said. So they're telling us we're losing. There's no way, no amount of money or weapons is going to turn this tide. But still, the military-industrial complex is beating that drum. Take a listen to Dan Hoffman, ex-CIA.
What do you make of this? Do we need to give more weapons?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. We've got to keep Ukraine in the fight. Vladimir Putin is trying to leverage every bit of pressure he can on Ukraine and on the West. He's using food, weaponizing food to try to induce the West to reduce our support to Ukraine. But we've got to keep Ukraine in the fight. That's the only way that we can reach a resolution that protects not only Ukraine, but our NATO allies, especially on the borders of Russia.
Now, that seems very fear-mongering, but I want to sort of reframe that for you to respond to with a question that we see a lot in our chat is, well, then what were we as Americans supposed to do? Just let Putin come in and take this region to himself? Can you sort of respond to that? I mean, there's the one side that's like, hey, we just need to come in and keep control of, the firepower. And then there's the other argument, which is, what did we really need to do here?
Yeah, let me just start off by saying that Dan Hoffman's not a military expert. Dan Hoffman's not an intelligence analyst. Dan Hoffman was a CIA case officer. When I see Dan Hoffman, all I see is compromised espionage attempts, and he and his fellow spies being kicked out of Moscow because they stink at what they do. And to have him sitting there talking about military stuff is absurd. So let's push Dan Hoffman aside. And Dan, if you have a problem with that, debate anytime, anywhere. I know your record, you know mine. It's an easy one. You lose. I don't mean, I'm normally not this aggressive, but I have no use for the CIA today, especially those people who were in the Russian desk, because they're the ones who have created this stupidity about Putin and Russia. They have this spy, and they never learned who they were spying against. That's why they got beat. They were all kicked out because they got caught. But now we come to your question. What were we supposed to do? Well, I don't know. What I would advise every American to do is go visit a cemetery, a World War II cemetery, and kneel at the graves of the men and who lost their lives on in the European theater.
I want to take a look at your article that you just released today, specifically on using Russians as cannon fodder, basically. Maybe I have that phrased wrong, but this is your piece today that you wrote on the U.S. is trying to use Ukraine as a test lab for its drones, a move Russia is unlikely to forget. So the next stage in this war.
I mean, the MQ-1C Gray Eagle drone was developed during the global war on terrorism. It was a great weapon used against, the Taliban, goat herders, wedding parties, Iraqi civilians, in this in this very permissive environment where it could fly around without fear of anything. But they've recognized, the United States has recognized that if you try and use this weapon against a peer level opponent like Russia or China, it's going to be shot down. And so they're in the process now of spending hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars, trying to upgrade the Gray Eagle so that it has a relevant role to play on the modern battlefield. Now, why then would the United States send 4 Gray Eagles to Ukraine if they know that the Gray Eagle, as designed and used, will not survive 1 second on the modern battlefield in Ukraine, unless they're seeking to use these 4 as a test bed to test out new technologies, new techniques, new procedures, which means that Ukraine has become a research and development playground. And that's fine if you're only using computers in theory, but this is a playground where Ukrainians and Russians are in a life and death struggle, and it's a struggle that Ukrainians are being slaughtered at a rate of 20-1 to the Russians, but Russians are still dying. So you're bringing in a tool whose sole purpose is to kill Russians in a war where killing Russians will not change the outcome. How brutally cynical can you be to do that?
Yes.
I would encourage everyone to read this piece. I'll make sure it's linked up in the description that Scott wrote today on the drones. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. You know, we've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.